functionality here with the webinar. So welcome. It looks like we've got our panelists are all there. So that's a good start. Thanks for joining us. My name's Bruce McFarlane. I'm the CEO of BDC Partners. I'm also the principal of BDC Law. For those of you who haven't heard of BDC before, BDC Partners, we help franchisors and retailers to grow and succeed. So BDC, we have 5 businesses. We've got BDC Strategy, we've got BDC Performance, Property, Recruitment, and Law. And then we form part of the BDC Collective. We've got Blue Rock as part of that collective, which provide accounting, finance, and digital services. We have Gap Maps, location intelligence, Benjamin provide insurance. We've got Associated Projects with fit outs, BF Brokers. They provide us with franchise resales, and the Save Group, HR. So today is the first of our webinars on why franchise. And so today what we're going to do is look at when setting up a franchise system, your primary goal is to ensure that franchisees are profitable and happy. And so once that happens, franchisors will normally be successful. So today's session, we've got Tanya Robertson. So Tanya's the CEO of BDC Strategy. Tanya's going to talk about getting an understanding of the existing business and what the existing business does and how the existing business is operating currently, some of the questions in the strategy. Then we've got Aaron and Jihan. So Aaron is a director of Blue Rock in the Blue Rock accounting team, and Jihan's head of business direct at Spotlight Reporting. And so Aaron and Jihan are going to talk to us about the financial aspects of both initially the business and then how to set up a finance model for a franchise system. So what I'm going to do is I'll learn how to do the share screen, and Tanya will
and we'll all see how we go. Exactly. Thanks, Bruce. So guys, I'm going to say apologies at them now because it appears that I may have some challenges with my internet. So hopefully I don't static too much. But basically, as Bruce said, today is the first of the 6 webinars we're going to be running over the next sort of 3 months, or not even that long probably. And I thought we'd sort of set the scene initially about so why would you want to franchise in the first place? What are the benefits to that? And then I'll just touch briefly on the steps that we believe that you should take as a potential franchisor to ensure that this is actually the right thing for you to do. Because franchising, whilst I'm absolutely passionate about it, and as are the fellow speakers today, it isn't for everyone. And it's, we take, you need to take a lot of time and think about, so what is in it for me and how do I actually help franchisees and myself, because it's also important that you actually are profitable in this as well. So Bruce, I'll get you to click to the next stage for me, next table. So that's, oh, okay, yep, no, here we go.
Not the pictures of us.
No, I think we know.
Actually, Tanya, I'm going to go one back. I'm also going to thank, we've mentioned Spot Reporting. I'm also going to thank Docio and OpCentral for being part of this series as well. So thank you for their support. Tanya, I'll just go through. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, so got a very simple diagram on the screen there, and I'm just going to work through some of the things that you need to think about as to why maybe franchising is right for you. So we'll start at the top and work our way around, shall we? So reduce risk. By franchising your business, you can actually reduce the risk of running a business by spreading the costs around a number of your different franchisees. So obviously, if you've got 3 or 4 sites currently, or even one that's running really well, to get to 2, to get to 5, that's a considerable capital investment for you. So what franchising can do for you is to bring like-minded people in and actually spread the risk out to ensure that you can grow profitably and also sustainably. It also helps you with easier to get increased financing. One of the challenges in any small business, whether it be your own or going into franchising, is finding getting funding. So by bringing in franchisees or potential franchisees into your business who can take on that funding, again, allows you to start to grow your business and to actually get these things going. And it's seen as a lower risk with a lot of banks as well if you've got a proven system. And a proven system doesn't have to be 100 stores. It could be 5 that are run really well, but it actually gives you that instep into getting people. And again, it comes back to bringing the right people in. The brand recognition piece, I think, is something that really appeals to a lot of people that are looking at franchising. Because again, you may have 2 or 3 stores that run really well and are well recognised in your own local communities, but you want to get that brand recognition out into, whether it be within the state or national, depending. And we've talked to people that want to go international, but the brand recognition piece is really critical. And what it does do is actually help you create a broader brand recognition status, because you're not only just within your own communities, but you're starting to spread into others. And that really strong word of mouth about how good the service is, whether it be a service-based franchise or a bricks and mortar franchise, it doesn't matter. It's about bringing the consistency of message and consistency of brand across all of the different areas that you're looking at. It can also help you with increased efficiencies. So basically, as a brand, you would have standards, processes in place already, but when you grow, often they can get diluted if you're the only one trying to oversee half a dozen different sites. Within a franchising piece, what it does do is help you get uniformity and consistency across all of your brands, all of your sites, so that rather than you having to be responsible for that, that's where your franchisees and maybe the team that's helping support them can also drive that efficiency piece there as well. Obviously, that lead can also help with increased distribution, because basically it's about growing. Everyone we speak to around why should I franchise? It's about wanting to take their brand and their particular model to a bigger audience. And if you've got a franchise model that is performing well, has strong brand standards, has greater sense of reducing risk and all of those things, you are going to spread your brand out across a number of different areas, subject to where the right area is. And we'll touch a little bit on that in the next slide. Of course, lower advertising costs. Part of being in a franchise is that franchisees take on some of those costs that you would normally have to do yourself. And Bruce will touch on that in another webinar, or Christy, or rather ever, about legal compliance and how that all works. But there's no doubt with being able to have a group of people that are contributing into marketing, that actually again gets your brand out to a wider audience with a minimal of cost to you. You've already done the hard work. You've already got the standards that you're looking to, and franchisees will actually take it all through from there. But at the centre of all of this is it's about the people. I worked for a brand a couple of years ago now, a small brand that was dealing in the beauty industry. And that literally started because one of their customers said, I want one of these. And from that, it grew. So a lot of your customers could be potential franchisees for you. If you've got people coming into your stores going or using your services and saying, this is great, I want one, or gee, I know someone that could run one of these, that you've sort of got almost on the first step of, it's something that people want. So by understanding who you are and what you do and where you want to go, then the franchising piece can become something that really is quite straightforward. It's never that straightforward, don't get me wrong, but it is a really good starting point for that. Now, just as a point, guys, if you've got any questions at all, there is a chat function on here. Feel free to drop those into the chat and we will come to those as we go through. Otherwise, we can talk about franchising all day, so we'll keep talking about that if we need to. Bruce, can we just jump?
I think you made a good point just on the people side of things. Obviously, the relationship part of franchising is really important. And I know that when we talk to potential franchisors, is really understanding it's a different thing from employing people, is you're employing other business partners and you need to build a relationship with them. So I think that's it's why it's at the center of it. Whether or not you have franchisees, whether you have master franchisees internationally, it's still all about the relationship. So
absolutely, and they're the key. If you can't get that right, or you don't actually understand what your relationships need to be, then you will always have some headbutting going on in franchising, and we want to avoid that at all costs. So, as I said, these particular webinars have been designed to kind of take you through what we call the stages of franchising, because we get a lot of people, and Aaron and I and Bruce in particular work together very closely on talking to people about their brands and what's the best way of growth for them. And we have kind of what we define as 5 clear steps to determining whether this is the right franchise model for you. And the very first step is to simply evaluate your model. And when we say that, we're talking about putting a really strong lens over it, particularly around the financial piece, because at the end of the day, you might have a really profitable business going forward, but by the time you throw in what's going to happen with franchising, whether it be fees or support or whatever, you also need to still be profitable. So not only are your franchisees profitable, but so are you. So we really recommend that you take the time, that you might be really passionate about what you think your business does, but you need to also be able to step back and work with people that will actually tell you, is this the right thing for you to do? And it may be that you need to go and get some more systems in place, or it may need to be that, you know, this particular brand needs to have, you need to make some more money along the way. There are lots of different things for it, but you have to be totally honest and upfront with yourself and the people that you're working with to determine, is this really the right way to go with that? And I'm going to leave Aaron and Jihan to talk about how that works and what that looks like.
Now, Tanya, I think you're right there. And part of the evaluating the model process is, you know, looking at the actual question, is franchising the actual right model for you?
Yeah.
Some of the other ones that might pop up, it might be just a wholly owned multi-site business where, you know, the owners own all of the sites. Some other options that might pop up might be a licensing arrangement where, you know, you get access to products or brand under a license. Or another one that's popular is a kind of a partnership or joint venture arrangements on the sites where, you know, you may own them 50-50 with, we'll call it the franchisee and the franchisor. You might go in partnership on that site together. So yeah, you're spot on. A key part of evaluating the model is, you know, understanding what type of multi-site business model fits you best. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And yeah, also part of that is so whilst we're also looking at the financial pieces, it's also about where this model could work. So, you know, we work with a company called Gap Maps, and I think, John, you might be on the call today, that can actually help you determine where this brand can go. So, you know, if you're looking for 100 sites or you're only looking for 20, you want to make sure that these things are doable. So we kind of try and do that at the front, because as you move through the process, and the next process is, so you've done all the evaluation, yep, the numbers are looking great. Yes, we believe we can take this across Australia, across Victoria, wherever it is that you're looking at. We then need to start to build the system. And the system is very much around, what are your processes and systems that you already have in place? So you're opening a brand new store. How do you do it? So from the ground up. So what are the processes? What are the shop fitting that if you need to do that? What is the training that you need to have? How do your franchisees interact with customers? What are your the systems do you have in place to record sales and to benchmark all of those kind of things? Because that actually starts to build, and you can track how you're performing from that. Alongside that, you then jump into what's called the operations and legal documentation. And, you know, one of the things about franchising, it's a very legal system. You know, we are a highly governed industry for all the right reasons. And if you get it right at the start, then you just continue keeping it right and you will be fine. But there is we have a code of conduct that you must adhere to. So you need to have legal compliance around that. You have operations manuals that fit back into your legal documentation. And part of building the system is to work with you and to one of our other sponsors that do a lot of this is OpCentral, where to ensure that your franchisees have access to, how do I do this? What are the things I need to think about? What happens if this happens? All of those things, and they can run their business, whether they happen to be in Ballarat or they happen to be over in Broome or they happen to be up in Darwin. You don't have to physically be standing beside them. You've got everything in place, and they know exactly what they're doing and when they're doing it and how they're going to do it. And then, of course, it's the going to market piece. So you've done all this work. I now need franchisees. So also working alongside this, you need to start to be thinking about, well, who do I want to partner with? Any franchisor that you speak to, and I would recommend that you speak to a few over the period, will tell you that they made some mistakes when they first chose some of their franchisees, because, oh, great, you know, they're really passionate about what we want to do, and they've got some money and they've got all of those things. But you need to step back and actually do some profiling or do some really deep dive into what makes a good franchisee in your model, because it will be different for every single model, and it will also be different at the various stages that you're at. So the franchisees that you're bringing in that first sort of 0 to 10, will be quite entrepreneurial because they're taking a risk. They're taking a risk on you. They're taking a risk on the system because it's not, you're going to be still tweaking and playing with it as you go through. However, if you hit 50 franchises, the people that you bring in, you want them to follow the system because the system's now proven. So when you're going to market, you need to start planning how does that look like? And there's some great tools that can help you determine who it is that you're working with, who best fits your model. You've already got systems in place anyway, so you can use yourselves, you can use some of your staff. There's lots of ways to do that. And also going to market is about where you're actually going to target. So again, you've spent the time building the model, you've got your system ready, you've got all your documents ready. You don't want to make the mistake of going into an area that's not ready for you. So doing that analysis of where you should be growing first and where you should be going next will actually really make that going to market piece never seamless, but it will be a nice, easy flow for you, and you'll have a clear understanding of where you need to market, who you need to target, and how you need to speak to people about it. And then obviously you're up and running, you've got your systems, and then it becomes the ongoing compliance and innovation. Because as I said earlier, the 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 franchisees that you have, you are consistently innovating, changing, listening to what they're saying, because they're now your voice and your face out in the market to continually improve it. And you're building systems around that. So the systems that you've started with, whether it be your benchmarking tools or your CRM tools, are already in place and they will adapt accordingly. But then as you hit that sort of 15 to 20 or the 20 plus piece, you've already bedded your system down now. So the innovation is about, staying ahead of the game. One of the few things that was good about COVID was innovation absolutely went through the roof, because all of a sudden we couldn't get out to people. So people had to innovate to keep businesses going. And franchise models generally performed really well because they had the support of the head office, which would be you guys, but they also had franchisees really pulling together and becoming really creative around, well, used to do it this way, but I can't do it that way anymore. So how do I do that? So part of building your system and part of being consistently innovative is to make sure that you're sticking within the compliance piece, because that's never going to change, but you're adapting accordingly and you're building your brand. And, lots of things have moved from online platforms face-to-face to online to all of those kind of things. So all of that is a lot. And today we're really going to come back to the evaluating the model piece. This is where Aaron and Jihan are going to speak. And as we go through the next round of webinars, all of the other things will be covered off in various forms. So I'm going to stop talking now and let the
thanks,
boys
Tanya.
talk.
Thanks, Tanya. Just, I guess, looking at it, when thinking about franchising, there's two things that the franchisor needs to be in control of. One is the brand, and the other one is the system. And so the brand, part of the evaluating the model is making sure that the brand is one that is a brand that you want to push out into the marketplace. And obviously, when you get to your go-to-market strategy, is the brand is attracting customers for you and your franchisees, but also attracting franchisees. So you need to look at your brand in that sense. And then the systems that you build all the way through here are key to ensuring that there's a model that's successful for the franchisees. Part of the other thing is, you mentioned those first franchisees, the dirty dozen, as some of them call them. You bring on these 12 franchisees that are possibly not going to be the ones that you're still with later on, because they may not be the right ones for your stage of growth as you grow. So ensuring that they're financially viable, they're making good money, they're good advocates for your business, and Aaron can talk about this in a minute, but that they get a good return on investment and that they have a successful exit from the system is really, really important. So that's part of the model that you're building, is ensuring that people will leave and that they are successful when they leave. So Aaron, if you move to your next slide, here we go.
Beautiful. Hi, everybody. Lovely to spend some time with you this morning. My name's Aaron March. I'm one of the accounting directors here at Blue Rock. Blue Rock is a multifaceted professional services firm. We've got a number of different divisions, specifically, accounting, bookkeeping, tax, and digital. So we're really well placed to help franchisors out in growing their businesses. And I guess today we're going to have a quick chat about building out a financial model for your franchise system before you start. because franchising is a really peculiar business model in that you sign up to exactly how you think it's going to work in your franchise agreement. You put all of your fees and you explain how the relationship between yourself and the franchisee is going to work. You put that in place for, say, about 7 years. And so you really need to be 100% confident that the numbers that you're putting into your franchise agreement are going to work for you before you go ahead and do it. And so I believe the best way to do this is building out a really detailed financial model which goes deep into your strategy and really picks apart how the ultimate business is going to work. We've done this with Bruce and Tanya for many different types of businesses. In the last year, we've probably done yoga business, real estate, fencing, noodles, locks, flooring, children's, health and fitness. They're the ones that are coming to mind at the moment, but there's a few others as well. So there's lots of business types that suit franchising. And so there's a bit of a saying that Tanya always tells me that, if you've got profitable franchisees, you won't have a problem in franchising. And so I think that's a great way to approach it. But when you build out the financial model, is the other part of it is that you as the franchisor, you've got to make certain that, you're getting a good return for what you're bringing to the system as well. And so when we build out our financial models, we build out a model on the base business. And first of all, we make sure that your business as it stands at the moment is profitable. If your business at the moment is not profitable, franchising is not the answer for you. Franchising is a growth and expansion strategy. It can't fix your actual single site business. So before you even think about franchising, make sure your single site works. And I wouldn't franchise unless I've set up 2 to 3 other sites first. So if you're thinking that, I've got a great single business, now I'm going to launch 100 franchises off one, I don't think that's the best way to go. And you really should go through the experience and set up, at least 2 or 3 other sites. So you understand what happens when you roll out sites, get all of your learnings, we'll call them learnings, done on yourself and get in a great place to really launch the brand when the time comes. And so when we get into the financial model, of course, the big question everybody wants to know, what's the royalty fee? How much should we charge? And basically, that's the first question we always get. And so to really understand the answer to that question is you really have to understand, as the franchisor, what are you going to do for your franchisees? Okay. So the more you do for them, the higher that fee should be to make sure that you yourself are profitable at the end. And so when you think about this, the royalty fee, so just to clarify, the royalty fee is, it's the general fee that's charged between the franchisee and the franchisor. It's how you as the franchisor generally make your profit. And so there's a few different ways of looking at the royalty. You can do a fixed fee, you can do a tiered fee based on sales, or you can do a percentage of revenue. We often see the percentage of revenue is quite popular. A second way that the franchisor can make profits from the franchisees is by selling products to the franchisees, which might be part of the system. And so there's an opportunity to put some markup on that to create a second revenue stream. And the third common charge that we have between the franchisor and the franchisee would be a marketing fee. And again, marketing fees can be similar. They can be fixed fee, tiered, or as a percentage revenue. Again, you have to understand that there's certain legal requirements around running a marketing levy. So you've got to make sure that you understand those, such as things that all of the money must be spent on marketing activities, and you need to get your marketing fund audited each year. So just be aware of those things before you go down the path. And so then you've got to, now we've gone through, we've looked at the revenue side, we've locked in our royalty, we understand what we're going to be selling to the franchisees maybe, we understand the marketing fee. Now there's a few other inter-entity transactions or inter-party transactions you've got to have a quick think about. If you've got real estate, who's going to hold the leases for the sites? Are you as the franchisor going to be hold them and then enter in a sublease to your franchisee sites, or is the franchisee going to hold them? So it's just a quick strategy point to look at. Software subscriptions is a big one. Are you as the franchisor going to explain to the franchisees exactly what software programs they need. And then as you as the franchisor, are you going to hold the head subscription and provide the sites with access? Or are you going to let the sites run the software, have the ultimate ownership of those software subscriptions? It's kind of up to you. It depends how you want to set up your system. There's high control systems where you want to control everything, and there's low control systems where it's not so much of a focus for the franchisor.
Aaron, can I just jump back? Sorry, just a second. You talked about at the start having 2 or 3 sites.
Yep.
Some service-based businesses or businesses that don't operate from sites that are territories, for example. Does the similar thing apply for those businesses?
I think so. You want to go through the experience of seeing what it is like to set up and establish a new territory. And so you might do that by having your current business, a key employee or a well-performing employee go and do that role for you and see what their experience is like. Or you might flip that around and let your staff and your key team manage your current site whilst you yourself go off and launch the new territory. Now, I think that's the best way to really understand what is going to happen when your franchisees try to launch a new territory.
Yeah. So it's just operating. It's having someone acting like a franchisee in a different spot, and sometimes that the manager of that territory or that site is a good potential franchisee anyway.
Yeah, I think that's it, because a part of it's thinking about when you get your first franchisee.
Yeah,
and it's best if they are an existing employee, understanding that they will be leaving your business, but they'll be helping you out as a business owner partner, as a franchisee. So yeah, somebody who comes warmed up with experience and knows how the system operates, they're just a better chance of being successful in the early stages.
Yep.
Something else you've got to think about whilst you're building your financial model is if you've got physical sites, or probably another way to think about it is what are all the startup costs? So you've got to think about, are you going to have a territory fee? Are you going to have, is it a real estate fit out? Do you have equipment? What you're going to have to do is when the new franchisees come on board, you're going to have to train them up on the system and explain them how the systems work. So how does that fee work? How much does you, the franchisor, are you going to pass back to the franchisee as a training fee? And then something that I think is quite important is the pre-open launch marketing activities. So these days when you see brands come to town, they'll launch a marketing campaign maybe 1 to 2 months out of a site launch. So that then when it does open, there's lots of activity. The site opens with a bit of a buzz, and you've got customers from day one. So either a launch marketing fee or a local area marketing fee to get things going at the start, some of the startup costs. Now, what you'll find is that these startup costs can have a huge impact on whether or not the actual site will be successful. You often see the fit out costs blended with the rent and any lease incentives. Those three operate together, and depending on the deal structure that you get, they can make a site really successful, or in many ways it can be doomed from the start because you will never make enough money to cover those aspects of the business. So again, if you're buying into a franchisee or as a franchisor, pay particular attention to those in your financial models to make sure that you're set up for success. And then, once you've locked in all of those things and you've seen it in your financial models, as I said at the start, you have to lock that into your franchise agreement. That all gets documented and is in place for the term of the franchise, which, call it 5 to 7 years. So again, you want to be really, really confident that those numbers are going to work for both parties, or else you'll run into some trouble down the way.
So Aaron, I'm just going to pick you up on the fees as well, just to loop back. So if with the fees that you're looking at, so you have often a royalty based on revenue. You often have an upfront fee. So one of the questions is there a territory fee? So in terms of an upfront fee, that might be based on the size of it, or it could be a fixed amount. Is that what's the sort of process to think about that?
Yeah, so often you do see a territory fee built into the contracts. And so that's just normally we often see that as a fixed fee to give you, you know, the exclusive access to that territory. And for the franchisor, originally I used to just see that as a straight profit center. But what you need to understand is that when you bring new franchisees on board, you as a franchisor, you know, you will be paying costs along the way, and you'll be investing quite a bit of time. So it does help you as the franchisor recover your costs and time and effort into setting up those sites. So yeah, going back to the actual question, Bruce, I think it is very common. And again, it's split out as generally a fixed fee, a one-off fixed fee, based on the territories. And so again, we partner with Gap Maps to get those territory sizes right. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that we always see is that when you're setting up your territories initially, everybody does them far too big. And they give away really big territories. And then in the future, in the next 2 or 3 years, they spend a lot of time and effort trying to buy those back or reduce them. Yeah, just to get your sizes right at the beginning.
Yeah, or be too big or too small. Too small's also the problem, is the franchisee might not be able to actually make it as much money. So just really understanding the demographics of the area, and also the, you know, how far your customers are going to travel to a particular site or territory.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
One of the quick outcomes for the financial models, once you've got it all complete, is you're going to have a financial model that shows the profitability for the franchisor based on different sites. So you can build in a rollout strategy. So what happens if I've got 5 sites, 10 sites, 100 sites? The biggest one we did was 650 sites. And so you can see the rollout and the impact that have as a franchisor. And then you also have to see what are the impacts for the franchisees. So we build quite a detailed single site analysis. So it'll show a 5-year forecast with a cash flow built in, with, you know, sales that ramp up over time, key ratios, so that you as the franchisor can have a level of confidence that when you sign up franchisees, you can see how it's going to run. And from that, you can also determine your payback period for the franchisees. So often they will come in, spend the first period as short as possible, paying off the setup costs. Hopefully that gets knocked off in under 2 years or as quick as possible. And then for the remainder of the franchise agreement term, that's the opportunity for the franchisees to make their profits.
Yeah. So just the question, one of the questions asked, the mapping that we're referring to is basically Gap Maps is the people we partner with, but there are other people that do it. Basically map out territories or demographics around particular sites to ensure that there's enough people, the types of customers that you're trying to attract are in those areas.
Yep. All right, perfect. So that's kind of it on the financial models. I could go on for an hour or so, really delving in deep on that topic. But that's the basis of it. And the key with the financial modeling, again, just came back to the same point, is to ensure you know as the franchisor as best you can exactly what the financial outcomes are for yourselves as the franchisor and for the franchisee. So you want to cover the franchisee for their whole contract period. And for you as the franchisor, you want to be able to map your site's rollouts.
Yeah. So Aaron, just coming back to the point I was making earlier around the dirty dozen and exiting. So with the financial model that you're building it from a franchisee's point of view as well as a franchisor's point of view. And one of the key things you're looking at is a return on investment for the franchisee. So the franchisee, you know, and looking at, you know, if a franchisee was to sell it at whatever 2 times it's the profit or 3 times recurring revenue. So firstly, we're looking at how long does it take them to pay back the debt if they're bringing some debt into the business? And then at what year is it? Year 1, year 2, year 3, when there start to be profitable? What does a return on investment for them look like when they want to sell the business? So ensuring that that's really clear for you as the franchisor before you're signing up your franchisees.
Yep.
And then that feeds into you as the franchisor. So there's things for you to consider. You might need to raise some money as a franchisor. So you need to consider what the value of your business is if you're bringing on investors into the business as well. So I guess, Aaron, so the model that you're doing is accounting for all of those things.
Yeah, and I think one of the really exciting bits in the model is that we build it to value the franchisor's business. And so you're able to see typical valuation methods, a multiple of profits. The accounting term will go multiple of normalized EBITDA, but that really just means profits. And so the good thing, normal businesses, ask any accountant, they sell at a multiple of 3. It's great news. So it's just 3. However, one of the reasons they are valued low is because often they're key man dependent. They don't have strong brands and they don't have very good systems. And so these are the exact attributes that franchise businesses have. We explained it. The key is at the brand, the system, and they're not key man dependent because you might have 30 or 40 different site owners, which really distributes or lessens the impact of key man dependencies. So that's why when franchise systems sell, they often sell in multiples more in the range of 6 to 12, as opposed to that 3 number we're talking about. So that's where you can get some real value on an exit of a franchise system.
Okay, cool. So I've taken your slides down. I think, so you've talked about financial models and financial accounting. And so now it's around the systems and the benchmarking.
So Jihan.
That would be correct. So thanks everyone for organizing this. Benchmarking is pivotal to franchisors and franchisees. You can't improve what you don't measure, which I've heard quite a bit over the last couple of months. If you don't have those KPIs mapped out in front of you, it's difficult to understand where you as a franchisor are at and where your franchisees are at. So here at Spotlight, that is something that's important to us. We like to focus and provide that information to franchisors, help give them the necessary tools to track this information. So I want to quickly break down both the franchisor and franchisee's point of view of why benchmarking is important. So why would benchmarking be important to a franchisor? Well, for one, benchmarking helps franchisors to determine which franchisees are performing well. It helps them understand what practices are being set in place that are working in the franchisee's favor, which ones aren't. This also allows the franchisor to share insight and better practices with those that might be underperforming. Benchmarking also allows franchisors to develop a profile of the business. We've talked about like exit strategy. This is something that can be brought in to elevate the business and potentially create a bigger buyout for those franchisees and franchisors. It can then also be shared with potential franchisees to educate them on what it takes to run that sort of business, the financials involved, setting realistic budgets, and being able to set long-term goals as well. This can also serve as support when looking to obtain financing for your franchise business. And generally, having higher quality financials readily available does attract a higher level of franchisee. Benchmarking as well can also help with overall strategy planning and understanding when there are dips in the market. This allows for you as a franchisor to sit down with your individual franchisees and set those realistic goals for whenever these periods of time come around. Now, what about on the franchisee side? Much like the previous point, with setting those realistic goals for each of your franchisees, these individual franchisees can now go and set realistic goals within their own businesses, as well as start implementing ways to improve their own business performance from the conversations they'll be having with the other franchisees and their franchisor. With these reports so readily available as well, it's also a great way to create a little bit of friendly competition amongst each of your peers, which will then compel them to perform better. And finally, benchmarking acts as a reference point for all of these franchisees to improve their performance based on the previous cycle. Benchmarking can expose, those strengths and those weaknesses. And by sitting down and having those regular catch-ups and chats with your peers, your franchisor, you can start to put in the necessary practices to resolve these challenges before they come into place. Gathering all this information can be a little difficult at times, having multiple different systems in place or having different accountants and what they're looking to gather. That's where something like Spotlight Reporting can help out. Spotlight Reporting can consolidate with up to 500 entities, easily collect that data, easily collect the necessary data, whether that be financial or non-financial, with a click of a button. And once set up, it's as simple as choosing the pages that you would like to report on. It's easy to distribute, it's easy to present, and we have a slew of graphs available. So whatever you're looking for, whether that be rankings, which can be also anonymized, so you don't have to point the finger at those that might not be performing so well. And it's simple. It's as simple as connecting to your accounting software or to the Excel that you might be using and importing that data in. So look, I'm happy to organize a demo or chat to anyone that's looking to get their financial reporting organized. And I look forward to speaking to everyone here about it.
So Jihan, just on that, I'm a great believer in, again, that old cliche, what gets measured gets managed. And I think when you're going into any kind of business for the first time, if you can set up your benchmarking or your tools to cater for that growth, it just becomes a thing of this, well, that's just what we do here. You look at the likes of Baker's Delight, who share everything, and they do not hide numbers. They don't hide the names of the bakers, and it's just something they've done from day one. And if you kick it off from day one, it is just how your particular business or franchisee does things, franchises does things. So it's never a challenge. The challenge is always when you start off without it, and then as you grow into it, you kind of go, oh, hang on a minute, I now need to benchmark. And if you don't have that relationship with your franchisees that we talked about at the very start of the webinar, it becomes a little bit of like, well, why do you want that information? What are you going to do with that information? Whereas even if you've only got 1 or 2 sites and you're measuring it as you grow, that measurement continues and actually becomes really powerful. And your franchisees, it's just what you do. It's an easy thing. Yeah, that's what they do. Yep, I understand why. My only other advice on that is, though, if you're collecting the information, do something with the information.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
A lot of times I speak to people and it's like, oh, my franchisees, I really struggle to get their end of month information, or I really struggle to get out that. And when you actually say to them, well, so what is it you do with that information once you've got it? It's like, not a lot. Well, then why would I? Why would I provide you with that information if you're not actually going to use it to help me grow my business? So it's a double-edged sword, but one, if you set up from day one, will help you immensely as you grow. And moving into franchising or licensing or whichever direction you take, it's all about the growth. And if you put the tools in from there, then you will actually continue to grow all along. So
100%.
Great believer in all of the above on that. Yeah.
100%. You're there, you as a franchisor are there to make a profit. Only way you're going to make a profit is if your franchisees are making a profit. How do they make a profit if they don't know what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong? Yeah,
exactly.
I think the best way to have a successful change management is not have to change something.
Too true.
Otherwise, it's a nightmare. Everybody knows it if you've ever had to change anything. Just some real quick fire things. We're probably going to run short of time. Benchmarking is the absolute gold standard of accounting. And there's a few things you have to have in place or else you're just not going to be able to get there. So really quickly, you need to make sure that you can access your franchisee's data, and you can do that by a franchise agreement. Please always have a standard chart of accounts so that every franchisee's chart of accounts looks the same. Have uniform bookkeeping, either do it yourselves or hire a third-party firm to do it for everybody. Generally, don't let it do it themselves. Let your franchisees focus on sales and product delivery. Get them all on the same software. If you can get them all on Xero, and definitely all on Spotlight, that's the best. And again, get the information, distribute it, talk about it, and use it. So that's a rapid fire of how to set up a great financial accounting system.
Well,
well, if there's any other, let me know if there's any other questions before we go. But otherwise, I'm just going to share the screen for round 2 for us. I've just put into the chat the details so for the next session, but the last question I think I can answer, Renee. I'll answer that one offline. Thank you. But yeah,
I have no idea why our slides have gone into something I thought I deleted. So
no,
there
I
you
think
go. Ah, right. Okay. No, good.
we're all good. So
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah.
thank you. So our next session that we're going to be running with Rory, Christie, and Cameron Prosser, we're going to look at recruitment and compliance. So Tanya talked about the different stages of franchising. So this stage, we're looking at legal compliance, which is part of the sort of third stage, as well as go to market, all tied in together. So in this session, we'll look at the code compliance. Christie will talk about that. And then Rory and look at recruitment and some of the tools that Tanya mentioned around making sure that you have the right franchisees, and so that you're looking at them from a financial point of view, but also from a value and culture point of view. And then Cameron's going to look at resales. So again, we're talking about return on investment. Cam can talk about ensuring that you're setting up your business so your franchisees do get a good return on investment and what they need to do. So we'll send some more information out to all of you that attended today. Thank you very much for jumping on. Oh, I just saw one other question. Yep, no, I think we're all good for questions. Thank you very much. Thank you to Tanya, to Aaron, and to Jihan for presenting today. If you've got any other information that you need from our presenters today, let us know, and we'll speak to you soon. But thank you very much for attending part 1 of our series.